Now we're going to take you out west, where today we can find the ultimate expression of Western luxury in modern custom-made log homes. But first, we're going to the Cunningham cabin in Wyoming.
We're in Grand Teton National Park here in Wyoming, in this beautiful valley we call Jackson Hole in front of the Grand Teton and the Teton Mountain Range. And we're standing right in front of the J. Pierce Cunningham cabin. Life for the settlers is very, very hard. I mean, the winters here are long. We can also see between 100 and 200 inches of snow in the winter, depending on where you're at in the valley. So it can be tough. J. Pierce Cunningham moved here with his wife Margaret in around 1888. They homesteaded here. They were coming in pursuit of free land as part of the Homestead Act of 1862. They could stake a claim for 160 acres of land. They had to live in that land, cultivate that land, and build a domicile, a structure of some sort. They eventually built a much larger ranch, to include a ranch house, a barn, corrals. And those buildings were all here when they eventually sold this ranch to the Rockefellers in 1928. It was at that point a 320-acre ranch. Well, certainly for the early settlers in 1880 in Jackson Hole, there were no lumber yards nearby. There were no hardware stores nearby. You had to use locally available materials. And one of the most abundant materials we have here locally are the lodgepole pine trees. They have very long, skinny, straight trunks, and they make perfect building materials for cabins like this. So you scrape together some lodgepole pines, build a cabin, you've got a shelter here pretty quickly. The human history of this place is really very rich. So by preserving places like the J. Pierce Cunningham cabin, we can help tell people the story of those people that came here before us and what it took to eke out a living here early in Jackson Hole.
Wow, now that's an example of an early pioneer log cabin. Not much to that. Now that valley where the cabin is located has the lowest recorded temperature in the continental U.S., minus 64 degrees below zero. Oh. Now, with winters like that, you know that modern log home builders have improved the insulation and the methods to withstand the cold and the heat, but they've actually gone way beyond that. Take a look at what I mean.
There are many kinds of log homes. You have the traditional full-scribed, handcrafted log home with cross-cut corners. But then we do post and beam log homes, and we do a mixture, a hybrid house, which this one is. This house we're standing in right now is in Jackson, Wyoming. So we have gorgeous views of Grand Teton National Park. We have wildlife everywhere. So this house was designed for the views. It was also designed for character. We did a fusion style house, so there's two courses of logs at the bottom, and then it's post and beam on top of that. You can do a lot more with a log post and beam house. There's a lot more flexibility than, say, with a full scribed, handcrafted house where you've got logs on all of the walls, full height. In the great room, the truss that goes right across the great room is very different from any other truss you'll see. We specifically design them so it opens up the view as opposed to blocking the view, and we try to turn the truss into a work of art. In the stairwell, we didn't originally have any logs. It was just stairs going up to the loft, and we decided we needed a little more character there. We build everything at our log yard in Parksville, British Columbia, which is on Vancouver Island. And it's that location because that's where the best trees are for the western red cedar, which is mainly what we build with. Because we can get the big flares on the bottom of the log, gives a lot of character. We will build the entire structure, the log portion of the house, at the log yard, take it apart, we ship it to wherever it's going, and then I show up on site with the logs, and using the local crew, we put it all back together again, kind of like a giant jigsaw puzzle. There are a lot of changes since the old pioneer cabins. The houses typically are much bigger, much more complicated. We have equipment now, power tools. We have designs to work from. The logs tend to be much bigger because we have cranes to manhandle it. We have different log species because we can transport logs. There are log buildings in Britain 1,000 years old. So they do last a long time, but you do have to maintain it. Every few years, you're gonna have to stain it. If you have settling, you might have to do chink it, you might not. But it does require a little bit more maintenance than a regular stick frame house.
I think log cabins are totally cool, and when you think about those beautiful ones, I mean, their ancestry was in that cabin in the valley, but the difference now is they have all kinds of modern tools, they can design them with a computer, and they have machinery to help lift those big heavy logs.